Hey everyone, and welcome back for episode 4 of the Work and Play podcast Unlocked.
Oh, it's good to be back.
Last week we really dug into Dr. Erica's interview.
Yeah.
And I think we uncovered some serious monetization strategies that Ariel might have overlooked. So if you're looking for ways to boost your own podcast's revenue, you definitely need to check out that episode.
I definitely do.
But today we're tackling something just as important: how to make your podcast truly connect with listeners. And we've got a phenomenal example to learn from: Keeson Dingle's interview on the Work and Play podcast.
A great one.
What struck me most about Keeson's story is how relatable it is.
Yeah.
I mean, here's a guy who came from really humble beginnings, young parents, tough urban environment, financial struggles, the whole 9 yards.
Absolutely.
But he managed to build this incredible entrepreneurial career. And it just goes to show that anything is possible if you're willing to put in the work.
It's more than just inspiring, though, isn't it? Keeson's journey really resonates because it taps into something universal. For listeners who come from similar backgrounds, it's a powerful reminder that they too can overcome adversity.
Right.
But it also speaks to anyone who's ever felt the odds stacked against them, no matter their background.
Exactly. And it's not just about his background. Remember how he talked about pursuing his NFL dream for years?
Yeah.
The intense training, the setbacks.
Right.
Ultimately having to pivot away from something he poured his heart into.
Yeah.
I bet a lot of our listeners can relate to that feeling of having a dream slip away.
That's such a pivotal point. It's that fear of failure so many of us experience.
Totally.
Keeson's story shows us that it's okay to let go of certain dreams, to recalibrate and find new paths to success.
For sure.
It's about recognizing that setbacks aren't the end. They're just a new beginning.
It's like he's giving everyone permission to embrace the detours in life, you know? And speaking of detours,
Oh, yeah.
how does he manage it all?
Yeah.
A corporate job, multiple businesses, a social life.
I know.
It's mind-boggling.
What's interesting is that Keeson attributes a lot of his success to discipline and structure.
Okay.
He talks about his dad instilling a strong work ethic from a young age and how his athletic background ingrained a structured schedule in him.
Right.
It's not about burning the candle at both ends.
Right.
It's about working smarter, not just harder.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's about prioritizing, automating, and learning to say no.
Absolutely.
I could definitely use some work on that last one, honestly.
Uh-huh.
But those are all such actionable takeaways that any listener can implement.
Right.
Even if they're not juggling multiple businesses like Keeson.
Absolutely. Think about it. How many of us struggle with work-life balance?
Yeah.
Feeling overwhelmed by our to-do lists.
All the time.
Keeson's story reminds us that it's possible to find that balance, but it takes conscious effort and a willingness to create systems that work for us.
Okay, so we've established that Keeson's story is incredibly relatable and inspiring. But how can we as podcasters translate this into our own shows?
Right.
How can we create content that resonates with listeners on that same level
Yeah.
and offers real value?
That's the key question.
Yeah.
And I think Keeson's interview gives us a blueprint.
I agree. So let's break it down. What strategies can podcasters borrow from his approach?
First and foremost, sharing relatable stories and experiences. Keeson's willingness to be vulnerable and authentic is what makes him so compelling. He doesn't shy away from his struggles and setbacks, and that's what makes his successes even more powerful.
It's like he's saying, hey, I'm just a regular person who's gone through some stuff just like you. That kind of honesty is so refreshing.
It is.
Especially when so much online content feels curated and perfect.
Exactly.
And I think it's important to remember that relatability isn't just about finding common ground. It's also about showcasing a diverse range of experiences and perspectives.
Absolutely. The more inclusive our podcasts are, the more likely they are to resonate with a broader audience. And that's not just a feel-good thing.
Right.
It's also crucial for building a loyal and engaged listener base.
Okay, so relatable stories are key. But what about the value aspect? How can we make sure our podcasts provide tangible benefits to our listeners?
That's where actionable advice and practical tips come in. It's one thing to inspire, but it's another to equip our listeners with tools and strategies they can actually use.
I think Keeson did a great job of this when he talked about starting a business.
Yeah.
He didn't just offer vague encouragement.
Right.
He broke down the process into manageable steps. Research, automation, choosing the right venture. He gave concrete advice. So we've got relatable stories, actionable advice, and diverse perspectives. What else can we learn from Keeson's approach?
Well, he embodies this incredible sense of resilience and adaptability. He shows us that setbacks are inevitable, but they don't have to define us. And finally, I think Keeson exemplifies this proactive, driven mindset. He's not afraid to take risks,
Right.
put in the hard work, and chase after his goals.
That's so inspiring. And it's contagious. It makes you want to get out there and make things happen. So to recap, we're talking about creating podcasts that are relatable, valuable, and inspiring. Podcasts that build trust with listeners, provide tangible benefits, and empower them to take action.
And the beauty of it is that these principles can be applied to any podcast, regardless of topic or niche.
Exactly. Whether you're talking about business, personal development, true crime, whatever. The key is to connect with your listeners on a human level. Provide them with valuable insights and inspire them to be their best selves.
So why do you think relatability and value matter so much in podcasting?
Well, for starters, they build trust. When listeners feel like they can relate to the host and the guests, they're more likely to trust the information and advice being shared.
It's like, hey, this person gets me. They understand where I'm coming from. That kind of connection is priceless.
Absolutely. And it goes beyond just building trust. It also creates a reason for listeners to come back. If your podcast consistently delivers valuable insights and practical strategies, they're going to keep tuning in.
Something your audience looks forward to and anticipates.
And ultimately, I think the most powerful reason relatability and value matter is that they motivate and empower listeners to take action.
You're right. Inspirational stories, actionable advice, and a sense of community can really spark a desire for change and provide the tools and support needed to make that change happen. It all boils down to this. If we want to create podcasts that truly resonate and make an impact, we need to focus on creating content that is both relatable and valuable.
So as we wrap up this episode of the Work and Play Podcast Unlocked, I want to leave you with this. Think about your own podcast, or maybe you're thinking about starting one. What can you do to infuse your content with that same kind of relatability and value that Keeson brings to his work?
It's a question worth pondering. How can you share your authentic self? How can you provide practical advice that your listeners can actually use? How can you inspire them to take action and pursue their goals?
These are the questions that will help you create a podcast that truly resonates with your audience and builds a community of engaged and passionate listeners.
And remember, it's a journey. Don't be afraid to experiment, try new things, and find what works best for you and your listeners.
That's great advice. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Work and Play Podcast Unlocked. Until next time, keep working hard, keep playing harder, and keep unlocking your full potential.